Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody has had a great week, and I hope your weekend is off to a good start, everyone. Happy Friday to all of you. Welcome, Jainil. Students, this class is IELTS Task 1 Writing for the academic IELTS exam. We are writing on a bar graph about phone use. So hopefully you remember the lesson that we did about a week ago with bar graphs, and you're going to apply that vocabulary and those ideas. This is a members chat class. Everybody is welcome to watch. To join the chat, you need to become a member of this class. Welcome, Carolina, our chat moderator. Students, this lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Check us out there. For the general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we've got over 100 hours of video lessons, interactive slides, original practice exams. Our websites look like this. This is our academic IELTS website here. You can join the full course by clicking that big red button right there. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. So it's worth it. It doesn't cost a lot, and it will definitely help you to improve your band score. For general IELTS, same idea, green background. Click this red button here. Welcome, Tatiana. Good to see more members joining in. Hi, Sanjay. Students, again, get the best course. We've got a new video out on YouTube as well for speaking. You should check that out. To get our apps, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help in your app stores, and Instagram, IELTS_AE and GIELTS Help. Follow us on Instagram to get our schedule and our vocabulary for the day. Lots of goodies there for you. So get the best IELTS, start with us. Again, if you have questions, you can send me an email. It's adrian@aehelp.com. We have task 1 academic right now. We've got speaking part 3 after in about 90 minutes. And then tomorrow we'll have task 1 and speaking part 3. That task 1 tomorrow will be for the general IELTS exam. So today academic, tomorrow general. This way you get to learn both depending on which exam you are learning for. All right, so again, just a little bit of review from last week. Remember that bar graphs are used to show comparisons and contrasts between nominal data. Nominal data means names. So when you think about this word nominal, think about names. On interval scales, usually like distance or weight. So some kind of an interval scale where you have equal measurements, right? Like here in this picture up there, you have 1,000 tons, 0, 50, 100, 150. And then here's some useful vocabulary for you that can come in handy for bar graphs. So let me do a little bit of a nicer circle there for us right there. So you've got the words taller, shorter, higher, lower, different, and then words like however, opposite to, similarly for your comparisons and contrasts, okay? So again, just keep in mind that you have nominal data, name data, here it's the countries, Canada, US, Finland, Japan, being compared on an interval scale. So that here is thousands of tons of fish. Now that's not the graph we're looking at, that's just to give you an idea. That would be far too simple for the IELTS. So let's check out the bar that we're looking at. Before we do that, so here we go. A couple of important points. What you need to include in your task 1. So writing task 1 is minimum 150 words, it's 20 minutes. And if you're writing a band 9, which you should be, then you have to think about 4 different elements. So you need to think of having an introduction, okay? So your introduction basically just paraphrases the question, and the important part here is adding more details using the graph, okay? So we'll do that in a moment. And then you write an overview, so kind of the main features of the data, so what you see when you first look at the data. And then comes the big part, which is the analysis. That's the main part. That's about 8 sentences roughly. And that is where you compare and contrast and describe the data in a structured way. And then number 4 is where you summarize. Okay. Welcome, Andre. Hi, Rashika. Welcome more members, and welcome all of our viewers as well. Let's get to looking at the graph finally. And again, if you feel like, oh, what's going on? We're moving too fast. Don't worry about it, because we will be looking at this in detail and going through this together and writing together, so you will have a very good idea of what is happening by the end of this lesson. So again, here, this is what we're actually looking at today, okay? So we're looking at Finland's telephone calls by category, okay? And we've got the categories down here. There's actually a third one that's kind of hidden behind me that you don't quite see just yet, which is fine. You'll see it in a moment. Here, the name data, okay, is the actual types of phone lines used. You can kind of, let me see if I can move out of the way there. Yeah, there you can kind of see it. It's mobile phones. It's the last one. So you got local landline, you've got national, international landline, mobiles. That's the name data. And then you have 2 interval scales here. Here you have the minutes in millions, and then you have 10 years going that way from 1995 to 2004. So this is what we're looking at here. All right. So let's switch over to our syllabus. Okay. So again, students, to get lots of help with this kind of Graph 1 writing, you can find more help at aehelp.com. That's for academic IELTS. So that's where you want to be for that one. And again, if questions come up, if it's not all clear by the end of it, you can always send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. Okay. All right. So let's go a little bit deeper into this task 1 question. Here we go, everyone. And members, you should be thinking now about, what's going on here. What should I write? Because I will ask you to write, and I will give you some feedback. So first of all, let's read the task 1 question that starts right there. Okay, so read it carefully. Here we go. IELTS task 1 writing. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task. Okay, spend the 20 minutes. The following chart shows the number of minutes spent by a European country making phone calls using different types of communication infrastructure over a certain period of years. Describe the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so we start with the introduction. And when you read this kind of question, there should be some more questions coming to mind that you need to answer in your introduction. Okay, so when you see the following chart shows, you should ask, okay, well, what kind of chart is that? All right, so what kind of chart are we looking at? The number of minutes. Okay, so how many minutes? What's the scale? Okay, spent by a European country. All right, what is this European country? All right. making phone calls using different types of communication infrastructure. Okay, what is this different types of communication infrastructure? Over a certain period of years. All right, what is this certain period of years? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 questions on reading this question, or after reading this question, that we should answer in our introductory paragraph. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay. So first of all, we're looking at a bar chart. Okay, so we want to write this bar chart. Instead of shows, we want to paraphrase that. Indicates the number of minutes in, and I believe it's in millions, from 0 to 18,000. To 18,000 spent by, okay, what's the country? It's Finland. So spent by people in Finland making phone calls using, okay, and then here again, the different types of communication infrastructure. So what is that, or what are those different types of infrastructure? And that's where we have the pieces here. So we've got the local landline, the national, international landline, and mobiles. So using local, national, international landlines, and mobile. Okay, so this is where I describe that infrastructure from 1995 to 2004, over the course of a decade. Okay, so I haven't really done anything too fancy here. All I've done is given the reader in the introduction some more specific information on what these elements of this chart really are. So what kind of a chart am I actually looking at? Is it a line chart, pie chart, bar chart? Here it's a bar chart. I've given the reader a more specific understanding of the number of minutes that they're looking at. I've given them a more specific understanding of the European country that we're looking at. And IELTS tends to do this. So IELTS task 1 questions tend to be quite vague, means without detail. So you want to add this detail to get that maximum score. This is where the examiner's like, okay, this person's interpreting the graph, paying attention, all right? Okay, and I'm guessing that our members are listening attentively because I'm not seeing any introductions coming up yet. Oh, there we go. All right, Sanjay. So let me show you what I'm looking at here. So I'm looking at this here and our chat, and I'm looking for introductions. So I see one by Sanjay here. Okay, so Sanjay, let me take a look at your introduction a little bit more carefully and give you a little bit of feedback. Okay. All right. So here we go, Sanjay. All right, let me delete that there, and then we'll take a look at this. So here we go, Sanjay. Let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see what Sanjay has written. So introduction. Members, in the future, you can just do like an I. You don't have to actually write out the word introduction. It will leave you more words or more space, characters to write your introduction. Okay, Slow Sunset Vibes. Welcome to our group of members. Send me an email so I can hook you up with those exclusive videos. Okay, So here we go with Sanjay's introduction. Sanjay writes, the rendered bar chart compares the changes and differences associated with the figure of million minutes of telephone calls, namely local, mobile, and national and international. Okay, Sanjay, let me give you a bit of feedback here. So first of all, don't use this word rendered bar chart. It's not really rendered. Okay, rendering is, I mean, if anybody uses Photoshop, you'll have a good idea of what render means. It's a little bit awkward to use the word rendered, I think, in this case. It's unnecessary, it's strange. So the bar chart compares the changes and differences. That's a repetition. Changes and differences, it's the same kind of words, same meaning. So we don't need to repeat ourselves, Sanjay. So the bar chart compares the changes associated with I don't know about the figure of there. I don't think it's necessary. With the millions of minutes of telephone calls where, Sanjay? In Finland. Let me see if I'm missing something here, Sanjay, but I don't think I am, because you're missing a bit of information here. Yeah, so millions of minutes of telephone calls in Finland, namely local, don't forget landlines, okay? Mobile and national and international landlines, okay? The word landlines, very important. And then 1995 to 2004. So you got to get the years in there. So you have some missing information and you have unnecessary words, okay? So my comment for you here, Sanjay, when reviewing your introduction would be Band 6, and I would say pay attention to unnecessary words, redundancy, and missing information. Okay, those affect your coherence, grammar, vocabulary choice, so they do have quite a bit of effect on your overall score. Okay, all right, so pay attention to that. Okay, so that would be my feedback for your introduction. All right, let's see. Janil writes, here we go, Janil. The vertical bar graph, I don't think you need the word vertical. I mean, yeah, I know there's sometimes a horizontal bar graph, Janil, but it's just, that's over explaining, okay? So the bar graph depicts the total number of minutes in millions from 0 to 18,000 with intervals of 2,000. Yeah, I would put another comma there, Janil. Spent by Finland citizens making phone calls using 3 types of communication methods. And then we've got a continuation, and I can see that, Janil. Very good. Okay, so Janil does continue this. Let me remove the tracking. Here we go. All right. 14. So local landlines, national and international landlines, and mobile over a decade from 1995 to 2004. Very nice, Janil. Okay, so that would be, so my comment here would be like this when you wrote this, okay? So band 9. Good work. Accurate, detailed information. That introduces this graph at an expert level. Okay, so that would be my comment for you there, Janil. So that would be a band 9. The vertical, like I say, it's not needed. A couple of commas here might be a good idea, but overall it's clean, it's accurate. It's specific, it's good use of complex English, It includes all of the details that we're looking for in the introduction. So very nice. That would be a band 9. Okay. If some examiners are really picky about those commas, they might say 8.5, but otherwise a band 9. Okay. All right. So far, so good, everyone. So that is the introduction. Okay. So again, if I go back here to what we were saying, that was the introduction. All right. So again, the introduction, let me just move that. So again, the introduction is a paraphrase, okay, with more details, and that's what we just did there. Now we're going to do the overview, okay. The overview are 2 to 3 sentences that describe the graph diagram chart with the main features. When you think about the main features, think about what you see right away, okay. So what is it that you can see right away? All right. While you're thinking about that, I'll read Rashika's introduction here and give a quick bit of feedback. Rashika writes, the bar chart illustrates the duration of calls in millions of minutes made by different types of telephone infrastructure, local landlines, national and international landlines, and mobile in Finland in 10 consecutive years from 1995 to 2004. Nice use of the word consecutive, Rashika. Just a couple of corrections there. Okay. All right, let's move on to the overview. So when I'm looking at the overview, I'm looking for the main kind of trends, like what I can see just by looking at the shape or the form of the graph without really going into numbers and details. So I'm not really paying too much attention to the X, Y axes in this case. I'm paying more attention to the actual bars themselves, okay? So I notice a couple of interesting details. Hopefully you're kind of noticing similar details, okay? Let me show you what I notice here. Okay, let me go up. So again, I'm not paying too much attention to the numbers. What I'm really looking at here are the general trends, okay? So first of all, in 1995, okay, I can see that we've got some pretty big differences between these 3 types of communication infrastructure, okay? And then I can see that in 2004, that difference becomes much smaller, okay? Everybody sees that, hopefully? Now that's one that I can see right away, okay? Another one that I can see right away is that for local landlines, we've kind of got this parabolic shape over the course of the 10 years, okay? Parabolic means that it's kind of like this dome type of shape. And then when we're looking for national, international landlines, we've got more or less this kind of gentle upward trend or increase. And then when we're looking at mobile, we've got this much steeper increase. So does everybody see that? That's a question. So is everybody on the same page as me here? Does everybody see these trends? So at first eye shot, that's what I noticed. I noticed that in 1995, we've got some really big differences. And then that gap kind of decreases by 2004. And then we've got a little bit of like a different pattern of change, if you will, for these different types of infrastructure. All right. And just so everybody can see what I'm looking at, here we can see that Sanjay is saying, yeah, I got it. Janil says, yes. Carolina's giving me a thumbs up as well. So write the overview explaining what we just talked about. So looking at these trends, okay? So I'm going to do the same, and then we'll compare, and I will try to look for some other members when looking at this overview. So get going, members, on writing the overview. Again, worry about fluency as well. So you can't take 10 minutes to write your introduction and your overview. You have to be fast, okay? All right. Tatiana says it's not the most confusing graph this time. Yeah, I'm hoping to see some good writing, Tatiana, absolutely. Okay. All right, so let's write the overview. While you get going on that, I'll do a little bit of organization here, and then that should give you a chance to get a head start on it. Okay. So this is the introduction here. This was the introduction that we wrote, and then now we're going to write the overview. Okay, you do not need to write introduction when you're writing your IELTS. This is just for your information only. Okay, overview. Okay, immediately, it is noticeable that there is a broad difference in the time spent using these three communication infrastructure in 1995, but this gap greatly narrows by 2004. Also, the general trend of using local, national, international landlines and mobiles are noticeably different over the course of the given decade. Okay, so that would be my overview there. Again, a good idea to check your introduction, check your overview as soon as you write it. So here, immediately it is noticeable that there is a broad difference in the time spent using these three communication infrastructure in 1995, but this graph greatly narrows. I'm using narrow as a verb here, by the way, narrows by 2004. Also, the general trend of using local, national, international landlines and mobiles are noticeably different over the course of the given decade. Okay, that reads fairly well. All right. Let me see what some of our members are doing. So again, for the overview, ladies and gents, you do not need to write overview. You can just do an O. Save yourself some energy and characters. Okay. All right. So this is by Tatiana. Tatiana writes. So again, Tatiana, just an O. Okay. So at first glance, comma. Okay, that's an introductory phrase, so we follow it with a comma. At first glance, it can be seen that over the decade, the usage of both national and international, you don't need a capital I on international, lines and mobiles had been on the rise. However, the usage of landline calls was the most popular. Yes, it's not a however here, Tatiana. It's a furthermore. We're not really seeing contrast there. Or I would say in addition. Yeah, this is kind of a different way to say or a different way to recognize it as well. Tatiana, I mean, I would, if we were in a university class, I would probably argue with you that you're missing some information, and I do see a little bit more there, although it had seen both the rise and decline, and I think that's a little bit of detail. So Tatiana, I would, you know, if I were really, here we go, marking this, I I would say, so we don't need the although it had seen both rise and decline. I would leave that for the analysis. And then what I would say here is I would say band 7-ish. Okay, so band 7, you are missing some clear information, or you're missing some main features. Okay, and there are slight spelling mistakes and misuse of connective. Okay, so the however is misused there. It would be in addition. All right, so it would be about a band 7 roughly. Okay, for those reasons. Again, remember students, for band 8, band 9, the content of your writing is very, very important, especially in the academic version of the test, okay? All right, sunset vibes. I see that you've got quite a bit there. Let me grab some of that, okay? And then we'll stick it in here. Okay, so let's see what you're writing. Remember, the overview shouldn't be too lengthy. It is an overview. It's not the analysis. Okay, and I see quite a bit here. Yeah, no, I get that, Tatiana, that they are typos, some of those mistakes. I'm pretty sure that when I wrote my IELTS exam, I actually lost marks because of those typos. So I know they're typos and you're doing it quickly, but just do be careful to check. So do a quick read over before you submit, okay? All right, so review. All right, let's check this out here. This is by Sunset Vibes. Sunset Vibes writes, at first glance, it is abundantly clear. I think abundantly is a bit awkward here in this context, so I would take that out. It is very clear. It is absolutely clear, but even those qualifying words, they're not really necessary. So just, it is clear that local landlines are the principal way of communication. At first glance, it is abundant. Okay, that's the same. Yeah, so let's just take that out. Maybe that's just me copying. While local landlines were during many years the most prominent way of communication, it is slowly decreasing. In fact, we could predict that mobile communication would surpass national landlines in a few years. Okay, this, no, it's a big no there. Okay, so here, this would be like a band 6. Okay, band 6. You are missing main features and including assumptions that are not evident from the graph. Okay, so you can't do that, Sunset Vibes. You must not include, okay? You must not include information that is not clear in the graph. All right? That will actually lower your score, and you're using valuable time that you can invest into writing information that is in the graph. So let's look at information that is in the graph. So you have to be really careful with that, okay? All right. Let's go back to the graph, and now we will look at the analysis. So we're going to analyze, and when we analyze, we kind of look for 5 to 6 points that will make about 8 sentences roughly in a logical kind of order for the major comparisons. Now, if we did a good job on our overview basically becomes the analysis, okay? It's like your thesis statement or your thesis sentence in your task 2. So here, if we Go back here to our graph. Notice the overview. Immediately, it is noticeable that there's a broad difference in the time spent using these three communication infrastructure in 1995. So my first point for analysis can be simply this here, so 1995, and just explaining the difference between these bars. Okay. Now, paying attention, right? Here, we've got local landlines at 12,000 million minutes. We've got international at half, right? That's 1/2. That's 6,000 million minutes. And then we have mobile just barely on the radar at less than 1,000, right? Okay. Compared to 10 years later, okay, it's my point 2. Where we basically have the same amount. So we've got about 12,000 local, but we've got a major increase in international and in mobile, whereby the international are over 10,000 and mobile is approximating 10,000. So we've got a major shift by 2004. And then we can talk about how we got there. So local having this parabolic peak here, okay, in 2001. Then we have international experiencing kind of this gradual increase, okay, with about, I would say 1,000 to 2,000 minutes more roughly per year, okay? So it's about 1 to 2K more, right? And per year, okay? And this is, you want to spend about a minute to do this in your actual exam, maybe even 2 minutes, okay? So about 1 to 2K more each year with this kind of gradual increase of the international, okay? And then with the mobile, you've got a much more rapid increase, especially from the year 2000. So that's where it really kind of takes off and skyrockets. So this would be number 4 here, sorry, and then this would be number 5 here, or number 6 here, okay? Does everybody see my 6 points of comparison that I've laid out for my body paragraph? Is that clear? Is everybody good on that? And I'm not, like, you're like, oh, where did you get that from? I just went into detail looking at my overview. Okay. So Bharat says, yeah. Jainil's giving me some interesting faces and emojis. Tatiana says yes. Amra says yes. Very good. So all we're doing now is we're writing roughly a sentence or so for each of these, okay? And this is why your overview has to be really good, because your overview lays the foundation for these sentences, okay? All right, so let's start with number 1 here, okay? So this piece here, all right? And I'm going to write, you write, we're going to pick up a bit of speed here, and then I'll give you some verbal feedback going forward, okay? So here we go with our analyses. Analyses. Okay. So in 1995, local landlines were by far the most common telephone call in Finland at 12,000 million minutes. Okay, notice how now I'm trying to shorten the 12,000 million minutes, so I'm not writing all those words. Okay, so 12K million minutes. Okay, and then now I'm comparing, right? So in Finland at 12,000 million minutes, twice that of international and national landline. And mobile appearing at under 1,000 million minutes. Okay, so just like that. Okay, that's my first comparison. All right. So in 1995, local landlines were by far the most common telephone call in Finland at 12,000 million minutes, twice that of international. So I don't need to write 6,000 because it's clear from twice that of international and national landline. And mobile appearing at under 1,000 million minutes. However, 10 years later, or a decade later. Okay, now I am going on to, of course, this last point here, comparing the overall. Okay. Okay, so just that there. So this last one there, right? Okay, here we go. However, a decade later, this gap had significantly, because it's still the past, right? Significantly diminished. It's just a fancy way of saying decreased or disappeared. Diminished with local landlines used the same at 12,000 million minutes, and international national lines and mobiles a close second and third, with roughly 11 and 10,000 million minutes respectively. Okay, so in that order. All right, so I've got those 2 points. Okay, I've got those 2 points, and I've got that comparison. I've got that very important however going on there. And, you know, at this point, I would probably read this just to make sure that it's accurate and I'm not making any typos and there isn't some kind of a strange anomaly or discrepancy that I'm not happy about. So in 1995, local landlines were by far the most common telephone call in Finland at 12,000 million minutes, twice that of international and national landline, and mobile appearing at under 1,000 million minutes. I might write it a little bit more accurately, like while mobile appeared at just under 1,000 million minutes. That reads a bit better. However, a decade later, and decade later is a time expression, so I put a comma there. However, a decade later, this gap had significantly diminished, with local landlines used the same at 12,000 million minutes and international national landlines and mobiles a close second and third with roughly 11 and 10,000 million minutes respectively. So I've basically described this last piece here. Now I'm going to look at the trends, okay? So let's do that. Number 3, okay? During this period, local landlines increased in popularity, peaking in what was that year? So peaking in 2001 at 17,000 million minutes, peaking in 2001 at 17,000 million minutes, and then decreasing until 2004. Now I'm going to say 12,000 million minutes because I've already written that earlier. Okay, so that's clear for the reader. They're reading carefully. All right. So at the same time or during the same period, right? Simultaneously. Simultaneously means at the same time. Simultaneously, international land calls gradually increased in duration. By about 1,000 million minutes each year. Each consecutive year until 2004. Okay, again, I don't need to write the final 11,000 because I've already given that. Okay, so that's fine. And then I've got mobile. All right, so I've got mobile left here, so let's do that. All right, mobile, finally. Mobile use increased rapidly, especially from 2001. I believe it was 2001. Yeah, from around 2000 to 2001. That's where this big shift happened. Rapidly, especially from 2001. Gaining more than 2,000 million minutes of use each following annum. We can use a different word for year. Okay, until the end of the period. But we don't need that. It's almost too much. Okay, and then I can write a summary. And some people think you don't need a summary, but I think a summary is a good idea. The summary is a clear piece of information that is in the graph. It is not a conclusion. So here, I'm going to keep it quite simple, okay? So all I'm really emphasizing here is that obviously the popularity of these different types of phone calls or different categories of phone calls are experience different trends or are different year by year, change year by year. So that's all I can summarize there, okay? All right. So nothing fancy. Okay, just a simple summary. So in summary, it is clear that during the turn of the new millennium, the usage of these different communication categories for phone calls experienced varying degrees of popularity among individuals or among people in Finland. Okay, so something simple, all right? Okay, and that can clearly be seen. And then I go back and I review. All right, so let's review this together. So this bar chart indicates the number of minutes in millions from 0 to 18,000 spent by people in Finland making phone calls using local, national, international landlines and mobile from 1995 to 2004 over the course of a decade. Immediately, it is noticeable that there is a broad difference in the time spent using these three communication infrastructure in 1995, but this gap greatly narrows by 2004. Also, the general trend of using local national international landlines and mobiles are noticeably different over the course of the given decade. In 1995, local landlines were by far the most common telephone call in Finland, at 12,000 million minutes, twice that of international and national landline, while mobile appeared at just under 1,000 million minutes. However, a decade later, this gap had significantly diminished, with local landlines used the same at 12,000 million minutes, and international, national lines and mobiles a close second and third with roughly 11 and 10,000 million minutes respectively. During this period, local landlines increased in popularity, peaking in 2001 at 17,000 million minutes and then decreasing until 2004. Simultaneously, national and international landline calls increased in duration by about 1,000 million minutes each consecutive year until 2004. Finally, mobile use increased rapidly, especially from 2001, gaining more than 2,000 million minutes of use each following annum. In summary, it is clear that during the turn of the new millennium, the usage of these different communication categories for phone calls experienced varying degrees of popularity among the people in Finland, right? So we can see that it was really during this period here, the turn of the millennium, where we've got this rapid change in popularity. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm happy I'm going to get a good mark, hopefully, writing like that. I've reviewed it, and then I'm good to go, all right? Buckrat writes, at first glance, the number of calls made by local method was 12,000 million minutes, whereas it is half the people communicating nationally, internationally, and 1,000 by mobile phone in 1995. In contrast, by the year 2004, not 14, careful Buckrat, a major change occurred, mobile at 10,000, and doubled in digit by categories and international calls, but it's not much variation in local calls. It's a little bit confusing, Buckrat. Careful with that. You want more clarity there. Okay. All right. Sanjay, let's see. A little bit of writing there. Okay. Sanjay writes, in detail, it is worth noting that in 1995, mobile calls reported significantly lower with less than 50 million minutes in Finland as compared to others. It's a bit off for me, Sanjay. However, it surged sharply to around 10,000 million minutes between 1995 and 2004. Okay. In the case of national international calls, the starting year figure registered 5,950 million minutes. I'm not sure where you're getting that exact number from. In the following years, national and international calls talk time, I like the word talk time, gradually grew more than 10,000 million minutes in 2004. Be really careful with your information, students, when you're writing your information, okay? You need accurate information for good band scores. Okay, everyone. Members, I recommend practicing this and writing the full essay at home. Then send me the essay. Okay, so you've got my email here. All right, let me get that a little bit. Up, there we go. You've got my email there, adrian@aehelp.com. Send me your essay and I will take a look at it and